sit down and even write out what your life will be like 5 years from now if you do Shackley as a business. And we want your why to be strong enough that if I were to call you at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I promise I won't, you would be able to respond with what your why is, just like that, okay? So they say your why should make you cry, and you really have to peel back the layers. Like if you sit with somebody and you're wanting to bring them in the business, and you ask them their reason for doing the business, and they say, oh, I want to make some extra money. And we say, oh, good. And many times we stop there, and that's not good enough. We need to peel back the layers of the onion. Why would that income make a difference for you? What would you do with that money? What would you do if you don't have that kind of income? Where else could you get that besides having a Shackley business? And then, you know, maybe they'll come up with somewhere else they can get the money, okay? But will that involve having your time freedom and your family time? And, you know, you keep drawing it in by asking the questions until they are really crystal clear, because we don't want to just have a replacement business. We want to have a retention business. And one of the ways of doing that is to be very clear at all times where each of us are. And I know I'm using that word over and over again, but purposely. So remind yourself of it daily. We were taught, and I don't even remember who taught us, but when you go to bed at night, it's a great time to say your goals or affirmations as you're falling asleep, because when your brain goes into alpha waves, the brain becomes much more receptive. And then say them again as you wake up in the morning, where again, you're still in an alpha wave state. And I have to honestly tell you that it gets to the point that I'm not even conscious that I'm awake yet. And I find myself already saying my affirmations. That's how much a part of me that's become. And then of course, sometimes you update them or change them, but really good to keep reminding yourself. One of the things that we're doing in our business, with this being 2020 now, we're actually, our saying's going to be 2020 vision in 2020. You know, it's sort of a play on words with 2020 vision, but what we're talking about is 2020 vision, that's how focused we are and knowing what our vision is to how we're going to move our business forward. The next thing is to really protect yourself when things aren't doing as well as you had hoped, because that's going to happen in our business. I mean, it isn't a business that just has a perfect trajectory. It's more like that, and sometimes even a little dip, and that's just how things are. And when we come to that point, that's when you usually see either somebody start rationalizing their why not being as strong as they was. In other words, they'll start saying something like, well, you know what, you know, it sounded really good, but, you know, I think I'm going to get this job, or I think I'm going to do this. And they talk themselves out of the very things that pulled them into Shackley. That's one party. But the parties that are going to wind up having a large organization are the ones that say, hey, you know, I'm sorry this has happened. That's part of the business, but I'm going to dig in that much deeper because I know where I'm going with this business and I know what I want from it. And so you break through the wall, or you go over the wall, but somehow or other you get to the other side of the obstacle. And when you do that, that's when the greatest growth you'll ever experience. That's when you really get to advanced growth. And that might happen maybe at least 2 times in your Shackley career. Just very briefly, when we, very early on in Shackley, we did extremely well, got very high awards. They used to call them President's Club. And we were making it every year. And we were so excited. And we came home and 5 people on our recap had reverted. Somebody had just wanted to try and hurt us, and they talked 4 other people into going along with them. And it was devastating. We just came home. We have this big award, and we're so thrilled, and all of a sudden, 5 people are gone. So, we had a choice at that point. And of course, obviously, we chose to break through the obstacle, knowing that, that can happen, but it's not going to be anything that's going to stop us. Because in this one, I want you to write down and I want you to memorize it. It's very easy. When quitting is no longer an option, that's when you can guarantee yourself you'll start growing in the business. Just think about that for a second. When quitting is no longer an option. Because how many times you hear people say, well, I think I'll give it a try. That's different from quitting not being an option. So in other words, when things don't go well, doesn't mean we stop. It means we find something better. In fact, they say that when you have a strong enough why, you always find the how. And so I'm going to say something about that.
Can you make that statement again, Hannah?
Yes, sure. When quitting is no longer an option, that's when true growth really begins. Because you'll find the way. You'll find a way to make it work. Or you'll get the help from people who will help you to make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Book, I'll go for no, and maybe Manda will remember the name of the author. I cannot, I'm just blocked. I went into our study to try and find my book to tell you. Couldn't locate it. I should have guessed, I probably should have asked Siri. But anyhow, Go for No is a really good book because, like Sarah, you had mentioned earlier about it's a real mind shift. It really is when you start thinking, I'm going to be talking to people about the business when I've only been talking to them about profit. So Go for No really helps with that. And if you think about it, fear is what really stops us, right? Would you agree? That's really what it boils down to. Fear of rejection. Alan always calls the prospect your China egg, somebody you really would love to have in the business, but you're afraid that they're going to turn you down. So you carry it along like a China egg, thinking maybe when I'm a little more successful, I'll contact them. And meanwhile, you just don't know. And real quick story, because I love stories. When we were early on in the business, I had mentioned to Alan had been in New York Life, and there was another guy who was very, very successful in New York Life. It was a good friend of ours. And they also had a ranch. And I said to Alan, oh gosh, Joyce and Ronnie would be so great in this. And he said, oh, Hannah, they're too busy and they already have enough money and they're too successful and so on. And I listened to him. And then we had a guest speaker come in. And all of a sudden I see Joyce Weller, who traveled 2 hours to come to it, came to our program. And she came running over to me and she said, Hannah, in those days we were called supervisors. She said, I'm a new supervisor. And you know what? We didn't even know the person who sponsored us. We so much wish that you and Alan had told us about it. That would have been so much fun to do that together. And they've gone on to build quite an organization. So, that fear really can stop us from getting really what we want. And the word fear itself stands for false evidence appearing real. So we have to remember that. So next point is to make a decision. You heard Roland talk about that, and he probably brings that up about every chance he gets. But he's right. There is a big difference in how people treat their business once they've made the decision that they're going for it. Now, I have a feeling that come Saturday and some announcements that are going to be made might make some of you even more determined to make that decision real quick, because you're going to hear some really exciting things.
Can you give us a preview, Hannah?
I don't think so. Let's see. Well, I can give you one little preview. There's going to be something done with the Prove It Challenge of the way of making money for that. But there's also a much bigger announcement than that I think you'll all be real happy about. So lots of good things coming. So I can hardly wait to hear it myself in detail, because I don't know the details. I know the, overall idea. But I think the company has recognized that we are very solid in products in Shackley. We know these products work, don't we? So we're very comfortable sharing those with other people. But sometimes we feel like if we haven't done the business very long and we don't have a great deal of success, sometimes we feel like, well, how can I tell other people about this great business and I don't having real big bonus checks or big organizations? Well, we didn't either when we began. So what we did is we borrowed from the success of our uplines. So you can all do that too. Talk about Amanda, you can talk about Jansen, you can talk about us, you know, just talk about Loomis's. You have lots of strong people through your line that you can bring up. And that really helps when you know that you have that kind of third-party credibility, and that's why we do three-way calls to add to that credibility. So let's see what else I want to point on that. Okay, so once all that's in place, your why is strong, you're protecting yourself because you're going to go through the wall if you get to a valley. You're going to make that decision to move forward because, you know, all this information that you've gotten in these last 7 weeks, I know it's terrific because I took it myself and helped teach it. So I know how good it is. But what's most important now is there's a transfer from knowledge to action. And until we take that and put it into action, that's all it is. It's knowledge. And knowledge is great for the sake of knowledge, but it doesn't help the business. So what we want to do now is take everything you've learned and start to apply it. So first step is determining what your goal is, your monthly goal, your year goal, your 5-year goal. And then if you're not ready to do it on your own, have Amanda help you create that plan. And the more specific your plan is, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that say, oh, I know what to do, I just need to do it. Well, actually, there's nothing like having a specific plan. I don't care who the person is. I don't like paperwork of any sort. I mean, I'm grateful that Alan loves that kind of end of the business. But I know I have to have a plan of what I'm going to do if I'm going to continue to grow in this business. And that includes developing a week at a glance. And especially, I know some of you work another job. And if that's the case, if you're not organized enough to know where your Shackley time is going to come in, you might come home from work tired or feeling you have other things to do. If you haven't set up specific Shackley time, it's real easy to let it go. And I will give you a tip since Amanda asked me to share a little that you're going to hear about. Sponsoring is becoming even more important. So be thinking in terms of bringing in new people. You will usually plateau if you're not bringing in new people. If you want massive growth, get to 10 plus new people in your organization in a month. When we began, we actually set a goal for 25. Now, not just by ourselves, but by anybody that we were bringing in that was a builder. And we usually had from anywhere from 25 to 40 people. Let's see. And then the more you treat it like a business, the more you'll have a business. If you treat it like a hobby, you're going to have a hobby. If you treat it like a business, you're going to have a business. If you treat it like a big business, you're going to have a big business, a large organization that will pay you forever. And that's one of the exciting things about this. The more you put in early on in your business, the greater the payoff will be for many years to come. Leon Pemberton, who now is deceased, was a very successful master coordinator. And I remember him telling us that he kept track of all his income over the years. And he figured out that if he had worked 7 days a week, which he never did, if he worked 8 hours a day, which he never did, if he worked 52 hours a week, which he never did, his average for his first 30 years in business was making $318 an hour. Good point. So, you know, in the beginning, we might work for very little, And later on, we work, play, work, money, money, money. And that's just how the business works. So again, treat it like a business, and you'll never have to work a day, because you're going to love what you're doing, because it's going to be fun and exciting and motivating. And think about when you do work another job and somebody asks you to do something, do you find yourself saying to somebody, no, I can't do that, I have to work? Any of you? Have you ever said that to people? I can't do that, I have to work? Okay, so if we're going to work and build somebody else's business, doesn't it make sense we would want to work at least that much to build something of our own that's going to create financial security and a lifestyle that can't be beat? Does that make sense? Okay, so if the more you develop a laser-like focus, the greater the result will be. Because then you aren't distracted by everything else out there. And we have enough things in life to be distracted by: family, activities, work, anything that's going on in the world. But the more that we can do that laser-like focus, again, will really make a difference. And then one of the last points I want to make that I think is so important, maybe one of the most important of all of tonight, and that is developing the art of listening and the art of asking questions. Now, I know Roland talks about that as well, and I hope you've been practicing that. Sometimes people say, oh, I just wish I could do it like you do it. Well, I've been practicing it for how many years? So it's not that I'm brilliant in any stretch of the imagination. It's just I continue to use my skills to develop them and make them stronger. And it's really true. I mean, in the beginning, my questions were kind of pathetic. But now I'm at the point where I can ask questions after questions to get into depth, and the results are just tremendous. So definitely worth doing that. And if you are in your head thinking about what you're going to ask them next, you will not be listening to what they're telling you. So the more that you listen and hear exactly what they say, and you know what, to make sure you're right, feed it back to them. So Sarah, what I'm hearing you say is, and then repeat that back, and then ask more questions and more questions and more questions. So when Sarah mentioned earlier on about making a shift, first of all, do realize that 50% of the master coordinators came into the business through the products, and that's how they usually introduce it first. 50% of the masters were introduced to the business first, and that's how they usually offer it to other people first. So when Roland's talking about doing this more that way is because if you only are moving products, you're only talking products, that is basically direct sales. And you will eventually get some builders out of it, but it's a really slow method. And that's okay if you don't mind that. But if you want to build an organization, you want to build the financial security, you want to have all the other goodies, cars, trips, and so on, then it really pays to bring up the business and be able to introduce people to that. And it's just as important that we offer a business opportunity as it is we offer products, because we're offering them health if we're offering the business. And the more people they bring in, that means that ultimately the more people we all help. So some people think you're helping more people by just introducing products, but actually it's the reverse. So Sarah, you and anybody else that might feel that way, what I would encourage you to do is don't stop what you're doing that works, but start to incorporate some of these other ideas to start to help grow that much faster. Does that make sense? Good. Okay. Anybody have any questions or anything that you would like me? I try to go kind of quickly and try to cram a lot in. But I think that you all are, I love it hearing Amanda talk about you and knowing what all you're working on, wanting to do. But would love to see you now take and really, let's run with this. You now are getting all this great knowledge. Shaq's going to be introducing a lot of great things. And this is the time. Put on your skates. Let's really, really Go for it. Love to pay out a lot of OPA dollars again. We paid out a ton last year. And we'd love to pay out more to all of you this year. Questions? Okay. Okay, well, good. Well, good. Well, it's been a privilege to do this with you tonight. And I hope that there's something that I said at some point that'll make a difference for you in your Shackley career. That would be a real joy to us to know that we make any kind of difference and help you. And also know that we work as a team in Shackley, and Amanda has no trouble if you call us for anything, or if you want us to do a three-way for someone in with you, you know, we have a great working relationship, and I respect her immensely. I think she respects us. The way we can help.
Speaking of that real quick, Chris was trying to get a hold of you, Hannah. Did he ever do that?
No.
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No, you know what?
Please do.
Pardon me?
I said, oh, please do.
Okay, I will. Yes, you know what, Amanda, you shared that with me and I just got tied up with things. And of course I came down with my flu, so I just didn't get to it yet.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I
Well,
think
we'll look forward to hearing from you.
he did send you a message through Facebook, but I wonder if you didn't see it.
Well, if it's been in the last week or so, this computer, I mean, the guy just came tonight. So it is up and running now, but oh my gosh, talk about frustration to not be able to get it. So it wasn't working on my phone either. I mean, I couldn't even.
Oof. Well, good. Glad you're back.
Yes, me too. Now it's going to take me a while to catch up.
Yeah, sure.
Chris,
No,
yeah, feel free to give us a call.
But Hannah, just to give you a heads up, it's a specific question about someone dealing with Crohn's disease that my wife overheard, not overheard, was in a conversation with a fellow teacher at school.
Okay,
So I
sure.
wanted to ask you for some advice and some direction there.
Certainly. Be happy to.
Great.
Great. Okay.
all
I'll
right.
back
Thanks.
over to Amanda. I think you have another half of a call yet to go. So,
No, we're done, Hannah. This is
oh, okay.
you ended.
All right.
Oh, thank you for taking the
On
time.
January 2nd, you know, we have a whole wonderful month now. So
Right.
and anybody new you can get for this weekend, by all means, want to.
Okay, good to hear. I'm
Thank you.
excited.
All
Can't wait
right.
to hear the
Good
announcement.
night, all. Thank you.
Hannah. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.